Okay, so there's 4 scenarios that a person could protect his loan. What are the scenarios that a person could protect his loan even without the Prozbul? One way, if he lends it for 10 years. The Gemara uses such a lashon, המלווה את חברו ל10 שנים, doesn't have to be 10 שנים, could be even less than that. If you gave a loan that the payment date is due after the Shemitah, after Rosh Hashanah, so then you don't have a right to collect it before. That's not the time of collecting. The Shemitah is not meshamet. So that's one way that a person could do it, is to say that I'm giving you a loan and you'll have to pay it a week after Rosh Hashanah. Okay, wonderful. So then it's not meshamet and it takes care of the problem. Second way is המלווה את חברו על המשכון. If you take a collateral, that's not meshamet. A third way is what we explained, that a person says, על מנת שלא תשמטני בשביעית. Because if you say, על מנת שלא תשמטני שביעית, if you say that I'm giving you a loan on condition that שביעית will not cancel my loan, that's not going to help, because that's called matne al ma shekatuv b'Torah. You can give conditions on what the Torah says. Torah says that the Shvi'it is meshamet, and you're saying, no, Shvi'it is not meshamet. That's not going to help. But you could say that although the Shvi'it is meshamet, I'm giving you a loan that you're not going to let go of it. And that's already called Tnai Shebemamon. We call Tnai Shebemamon any condition that has to be with money. Nao kayam. That's fine. You're not saying that you're not saying something that's contradicting the Torah. You're not saying Shvi'it is not meshamet. You're saying Shvi'it is meshamet, but I want you to still hold to the loan, and that is fine. Now, another way of doing it is the way of the Prozbul, and that is the moser chovotav, moser shtarotav lebetin. When you give the shtar to betin, which means they can collect it for you, that is the way that it's done. Normally, the way it would be is that you take the person to a betin. Person needs to pay you. You didn't pay you on time. You give him hazmana from betin. So now it's in the hands of betin. Once it's in the hand of Beis Din, the Shemitah is not meshamet. So this is the way the Prozbul works. That you give the loan to a betin, which means they have a right now. In other words, they are involved right now in that loan. You are the one collecting it, but they're involved right now in the loan. They become part of that issue, and therefore such a thing is not going to be meshamet. This was the takana of Hillel. That is something that we have to do before Rosh Hashanah. When you do Prozbul before Rosh Hashanah, the Prozbul is going to take place and take care of all the loans, all the debts that you have up to that point. From there on, if let's say you give another loan, that's not going to take care of it. And the Shemitah will be meshamet that. So let's say you did it 3 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. And meanwhile, you had some business deals, and you gave some loans to people, or people gave you checks that you didn't yet deposit. All those things. Let's see the scenario of things that the Shemitah would cancel out if you don't have a Prozbul. So one thing I just mentioned is a check. Someone gave you a check, you didn't deposit it yet. So that's a loan. The loan is still up there, and the check is only a way for you to be able to collect that money. You go with that check. You go to the bank and they give you the money that the person owes you. That's all. It's only a shtar re'aya. It's not, because it's a piece of paper that's not worth anything more than just the right to collect your money. And therefore the poskim write, this is almost across the board, that as long as you didn't collect or deposit that check, you're in danger of losing your money. Another way that many poskim bring down is money in a bank. You might have a few $1 million in a bank. It's a Jewish bank. And if you didn't do, what's money in a bank? Money in a bank is a loan. You're lending the bank money. What do? They tell you in the account how much money you lend them. That's what it is. I mean, you don't have your money there. You're giving them the money. They're using your money to make a lot of money, much more money. I'm sorry? Safe deposit is not a loan. That's your money in a certain place. But when you put the deposit in a bank, $2 million, within time, what happens is you gave them a loan. They're using your money. They're very happy that you are giving them money. And they'll tell you how much you gave them by the bank account. You'll see how much money they owe you. But comes Shemitah, and that's Meshamet. So you have to make, so that's very practical for every person to do Prozbul, because we feel that it's not nogam. No, I didn't lend money to anybody. So it could come up in various ways. If you worked for somebody, and it's a one-time job, so if you're an employee and you work on regular base, so over here it says that since the payment not always comes on time, unless you told them this, you have to pay me. We made up you pay me weekly, and that time came, and I'm coming to ask for that money. You have to pay me now. So that becomes, or you have to pay me tomorrow. That's called zakafalav b'milve. You take that and you make it into a milve that now you actually put it into numbers and a time that he needs to be porea, he needs to pay it. But otherwise, if you didn't do that, so since it's normal to not pay on time in many different jobs, so therefore the collection could become after Rosh Hashanah, could take place after Rosh Hashanah. It's not meshamet. But if it's a one-time job, you made for somebody a job. Somebody gave you mezuzot to check. You check the mezuzot, you gave it to him. He has to pay you on the spot. That's the way it works. Normally, you make a job. You went to paint. You went to build somebody a sukkah on this time of year. Before Rosh Hashanah, he wants to be early. If you finish, you build it for him. It's time to pay. The person says, "Okay, I send you a zel. I send you a zel." Right? Okay, you're waiting on it. Rosh Hashanah comes, and it's meshamet because it's the same as zakaf alav b'milve. It's time to pay up your loan. So these are some very practical things that one needs to. It's not only that you actually gave a loan, halacha l'maaseh. A person came and told you, I need $500. Can you lend me that money? That's not the only scenario. It can come up in many different things. Moreover, if you gave somebody something that is not even money, it's something else. For instance, a neighbor came and they wanted to borrow 5 eggs and a pack of sugar and a coffee. They have a simcha in the house. They have a lot of guests, and you gave them all kind of things. And there are normal ways that after Shabbat he would go and get you same thing, whatever you gave him. He used that up. He's going to get you others. So that is translated into a loan, because the difference between alva and she'ela means that I take something and I return the very same thing. I take a cow, השואלת הפרה, I take a cow and I give back that very cow. I take a car and I give back the same exact car to the person. I was shoel. But if it's alva, which means I take it and I give something else, many times a person gives a loan to his friend on interest. They make all kind of business with interest, with ribit. How do they do it? With the teriska. Teriska is mechza milve, mechza iska. The mechza of milve is a milve. So you need for that to make a prozbul. So prozbul again is made out of the words prozbul. ושברתי את גאון עוזכם, says the Navi. What's גאון עוזכם? Says the Targum, אלו בולאות שביהודה, which means the rich people. It's takana for the rich people. Okay? So that is the takana of Hillel. Yes?
So you have to give the bank, if it's owned by a Jew, a prozbul?
You make it. You don't need to give anybody. You make a prozbul, and he doesn't need to know anything. When you make the prozbul, it's a shtar, it's a very simple shtar that it says on it that you give in the right, or the collection right, הריני מוסר לבית דין פלוני ופלוני, שכל חוב שיש לי, שהגבנו בכל עת שרוצה. That's what it says in the prozbul.
What can you get out of it and say that the derech is not that the bank has to pay you on time, it's the hajman, it has to be.
It's almost like saying, with the bank, because the Maisi, you're only giving them on a condition.
You can collect at any given time. Yeah. You can go now to the bank and tell them I need the money. So it's a loan. Now, let me just explain to you when we're dealing with a Prozbul, I told you that it needs to be given to a bet din. There's machloket over here what kind of bet din you need. According to Shulchan Aruch, you need bet din chashuv. Bet din chashuv, that's the way the Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Samech Zayin Sif Yudchet, that Prozbul eno meshamet ve'eno nichtav ela bebet din chashuv. It needs to be an important bet din. What's an important bet din? Shlosha beki'im bedin uvinyan Prozbul. They are knowledgeable with the din and the Prozbul, ויודעים עניין שמיטה, והם חום רבים עליהם, which means the public agreed that there should be a bet din. Not that you have today all kind of 3 people that decided they know a little bit halachot or choshen mishpat and they open their own bet din. It needs to be a bet din that was accepted in the town, or such a bet din that within time it becomes accepted. So such a bet din is considered bet din chashuv. That is the requirement. And since it's very hard to go in front of a bet din chashuv, it's hard for the people, it's hard for bet din. Imagine you have to, the entire Klal Yisrael needs to go now to a bet din chashuv in your city. It would be overwhelming for everybody. I mean, it's before Rosh Hashanah, nobody has any time to do anything. And to go and stand online for hours and hours and get them involved in this for hours and days, and even more than that, that's very hard. So because of that, the poskim wrote that instead of that, you could write a Prozbul with edim, witnesses. You in front of 2 witnesses, you tell them that you are the witnesses that I'm giving my shtarot to the bet din, to bet din ploni. Now, according to Ashkenazim, it's not needed because the Rama says yesh omrim shekodrim Prozbul bechol bet din, and because of that, you'll see on Erev Rosh Hashanah, after Tefillah, Ashkenazim, they do that every year, by the way. Right after the Tefillah on Erev Rosh Hashanah, you see people right afterwards doing Hatarat Nedarim with 3. 3 people are sitting, doing Hatarat Nedarim for 1 person, then they switch. It takes a little bit of time, and then they leave. Not like Sfaradim that do everything in a wholesale. You take the entire shul, 500 people, you place 3 people, Machmirim 10, take 10 people, and you tell them that they are the bet din, and everybody, and Chazan HaKnesset reads the Hatarat Nedarim, and Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habnuya, and they go home. That's it. Same thing with Prozbul. Prozbul also. You go in front of 2 edim, you write it, you go over there. They do it in bet din, in front of 3 bet din, not only the Hatarat Nedarim, but they do also now, when we're coming to the end of the Shemitah year, on Erev Rosh Hashanah, they do this Prozbul. But Sfaradim, on the other hand, don't get mistaken if you pray in Ashkenaz shul, that this is the halakha. Like, you know, when one prays in Ashkenazi shul, so he sees everybody's doing it. They give away the papers. The rabbi says that there's a stack of Prozbulim here, each person should take, and you fill it up, and you go home all happy. The truth is that it doesn't help. It doesn't help for Sfaradim, because you need to have a bet din chashuv. So on the other hand, what you should do is have a dim to witnesses that testify on that you gave this chov to be collected by the bet din shekol shegvenu b'kol et she'artzeh. You collecting it, but you gave it over to bet din. Is moser shtarotav lebet din. So that's an important point that not one needs to know. Now you need to know another leniency that the Rama brings down, and that is he writes that na'agu shelo lichtov Prozbul. In other words, he writes that there was a minhag, although he writes to do a Prozbul, but there are places that didn't do Prozbul at all. Why not? How could that be? So it's based on 2. The poskim say that it's based on 2 things. First of all, there's a shitat Baal HaMaor the Raza that writes that there's no shvit meshametet bazman hazeh, there's no such thing. So, although we're not posek like that, but also over here there's another thing, and that is that we already said that if a person says to his friend, Al menat shelo tashmeteni b'shvit, if he says those words, so shvit is not meshametetu. So the poskim said that the Rama must have meant that it's automatically, it's like lev bet din matneh. It's like a person obviously means, even without saying that that's the reason, that's the way I'm giving you the loan. I'm giving you a loan. Al menat shelo tashmeteni b'shvi'it. So therefore, that is the reason you don't need to do a Prozbul. But since it's very easy to do a Prozbul, it's done very, very easily. All you need to do, as we explained, according to Sfaradim, you take 2 witnesses and you just fill up the paper. And it's a printed paper. If you don't have a printed paper, since it's 2 sentences, you could just take any paper and just write it and you get over it.
Which bedding they use? There's a specific bedding.
So it's Beddin Chashuv Shebeiro. That's lechatchila. That's the way it's.
You know which bedding it is.
Well, you either write that. Normally, the papers come printed already with whatever it says. Okay, very good. Very,
in Hebrew and other one in English.
very good. So if you don't have Beddin Chashuv Shebeiro, right? So then you do it with a Beddin of Yitzchak Yosef in Israel. Yeah? So it's an interesting thing. You could have a Av ve'em, em ve'ir be'Israel, and you need to be Toleh in Beddin in Yerushalayim. Okay?
Is there any downside to writing Prozbul?
Yes. The downside to writing a Prozbul is you're not actually practicing the mitzvah of Shemitah. Since there is a mitzvah to be meshamet, when a person wants to pay you, you say meshametani. That is the halacha. And therefore you're losing out on the mitzvah deoraita. Because of that, says the Ben Ish Chai, that there were people that wanted to gain the mitzvah. So after they wrote the Prozbul, they would lend their friend a little bit money, lend him a few dollars, and he has to pay you, telling him, I'm lending you this money, you have to return it to me before Rosh Hashanah. Right? And when Rosh Hashanah comes, on Tzom Gedalia, he comes back to pay you. He says he's back the $5, and to say Meshamet Ani, and with that you mekayem the mitzvah of Shmitat Ksafim. Okay?
He has to come back and to tell you, or just once he doesn't come, we don't tell him it goes.
The lashon that you have to tell him is Meshamet Ani. Now, when we come back, when we say the lashon is Zed Var Hashmita, Chachamim learn that you have to say the words. So there's Rabbi Akiva Iger, he has a chakira over there with Rav Wolf, his uncle, whether ktiva ketipur dami. So if you want to hold that ktiva is kedibur, that could help you. Now the question is, another question is typing is ktiva. Maybe it's not even ktiva. So you instead of saying Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, you can just bring your phone, type it, send, and that's it. That's what you say.
Send the message.
Oh, so that could be. That could be. That could be. That could be. Now, since the din of Shemitah and Prozbul, Chachamim would metaken. Chachamim, it's a rule by Chazal. They only metaken takanot on davar hamatzui. It needs to be something common, and therefore loan is normally given only to a person that has a land. Therefore, there's she'ibud nechasim. I'm not going to give somebody money. We're not talking about $2, $3. Normally, a loan is a nice amount. I'm not going to give him a few $1,000s if I don't know that he has she'ibud nechasim. That's normally the way it is. So therefore, the common thing, it's davar, that matzui, common, that I give a loan when this she'ibud nechasim, he has land. So because of that, the takana of Prozbul was only when the loveh has a land that I can collect from. What happens if he doesn't have a land? So then, lechora, the Prozbul should have not worked. Because of that, Chachamim said that it still could work by the fact that the malveh could acquire to the loveh a piece of land. How much? A kolshu. Not something valuable. A kolshu. The loveh has to have a land the size of a kolshu. Any size. Mamash very, very, very tiny. That's good enough. So much so that even if you have a flower pot that's nakuv, it has holes on the bottom, the flower pot, That's also considered a land, and that's good enough.
זה מחובר לקרקע של מישהו אחר.
לא משנה, אף על פי כן, זה מועיל. כזה דבר מועיל. זה נחשב, this is called land, and it's considered a good loan. Now, once a person brings back the loan, he wants to pay back the loan, and he comes to you, and you tell him, as we explained, if you didn't do Prozbul, you tell him, Meshamet ani. That is the mitzvah, to say, Meshamet ani. So then, the truth is that he should try to attempt to pay the loan. Even though he said Meshamet, even though you said Meshamet ani, the Loveh should say Af al pi ken, even though I still want to return it. Why? Because on that the Mishnah says that Ruach Chachamim nocha imenu, המחזיר חוב שעברה עליו שביעית, Ruach Chachamim nocha himenu. Mishnah in the end of Shvi'it. So therefore, a person should attempt to pay back the loan. And once you say Af al pi ken, then the Malveh is allowed to receive it. What does it mean when you say Af al pi ken? It doesn't mean that I'm returning you the loan, because it's not a loan. The Torah was mafkia the loan. The Torah let go of the loan. There's no more loan. So whether he said Meshamet ani or not, the loan is not there. There's a mitzvah to say Meshamet ani, to express what the Torah commanded. But there's no loan. So what is, when you say Af al pi ken, what do you mean? What does the Malveh mean? The Loveh means? The Loveh means to say, I understand that I don't owe you the money anymore, and I'm giving it to you as a gift. Once you understand that you're giving it as a gift, the Malveh is allowed to take it. So therefore, the Rambam writes, and Shulchan Aruch also, כל המחזיר חוב שעברה עליו שביעית, רוח חמים נוחה ממנו, וצריך המלווה לומר למחזיר משמט אני. The Malveh needs to say, I'm canceling the loan, וכבר נפטרת ממני, and you are exempt from me. אמר לו, אף על פי כן, רצוני שתקבל, יקבל ממנו. If he says, even though I still want to pay it, you should accept it. שנאמר לו יגוס, והרי לא נגס. ולא יאמר לו בחובי אני נותן לך, don't say I'm returning you your loan, אלא יאמר לו שלי הם, I understand it's my money, ובמתנה אני נותן לך. החזיר לו חובו, ולא אמר לו כן. Let's say a person comes and he returns you the money. You say, no, משמט אני. So then, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't say the words that we said. מסבב עמו בדברים עד שיאמר לו שלי הם ובמתנה נתתים לך. You should talk to him and try to make him understand that it's his money and he needs to give it as a gift. So tell him, no, it's not mine anymore. What do you mean? The Torah canceled it. The money is not mine anymore. You want to give it to me? That's a very nice thing. I would love to have such money. I really need the money, but it's not my money. You know, $1,000, really? My account is missing $1,000, but what should I do? So he needs to understand, you're talking to him, he needs to understand, but not everybody's hopping, Some people also have interest not to understand so easily those things. So therefore, אם לא אמר לו, if he didn't say it, לא יקבל ממנו, אלא ייטול מעותיו וילך לו. If he didn't say it, he's going to have to go away with his money. But the Gemara brings down, and the Mefarshim say that you can even, the Gemara in Gittin, you can even embarrass him about the money. In other words, you can't claim the money, you can't tell him, give me the money, but you could, first of all, some Rishonim say, I think it's the Meiri, that you look at him in a way that shows that you like makpid. What do you mean? You have to give me back the money. It's my money. It's not my money, but you took, and it's not the right thing. It's the correct thing to return the money. So you give them such a look. Some say that you can use embarrassing things, and some say that's mamash meforash, that you could send people. They're not going to ask for the money for you in your behalf, but what they'll do is they'll explain to him, it's not nice, you lend money. So Shvi'it came, you're right, but the correct thing is that to give it to him, although it's yours, for sure, the Torah says that it's your money now, but it's not nice. He worked hard for the money. It's not like something that came to him easily. So you talk to him, you convince him that's the way. Well, you remind him in a way that you're not saying you owe me the money, because he doesn't really owe you the money.
Is he still begeder lover ashav v'lo yishalem?
Could be not, but it's called ruach chachamim nochai meno, and that is the correct thing that a person should go ahead and do when he lends that money. So let's just I want to summarize this very important thing that we said that there are different ways that one could make sure that his loan is not meshamet. We said that either you lend the money in such a way that the paying is due after Rosh Hashanah. So because of that, you have different scenarios that you don't have. It's not called zakaf alav b'milveh, as we explained before. If you working by somebody, or you let's say you are buying merchandise on a loan. In other words, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Normally, I'm not sure in business, but normally 90 days doesn't mean 90 days, because 90 days really, is expected to pay within 90 days. But I'm not sure. I think that, it's just like, as we call it, etzah tova, it's suggested, like you go to a place, they tell you a suggested donation. You can't force it. So over here, 90 days means it would be nice if you pay within 90 days, but I understand that normally the merchandise is being paid afterwards, and it's not the end of the world. So if that is the case, so it could be collected even without the Prozbul, but because the paying time is after Rosh Hashanah. But if 90 days, it's such a big company, let's say you're dealing with a company that 90 days means 90 days. I mean business. If you're going to pay it after 90 days, they cut ties with you. They're not sending you any more merchandise. So such a milveh, they're giving you that it's has to be within, if 90 days came in before Rosh Hashanah, so that's like zakaf alav b'milveh, which means it's a loan, and the Shemitah of Rosh Hashanah would actually cancel that loan. So they would have to make a Prozbul. So that is one scenario. Another scenario that we explained is that you do, when you give the loan, you take a collateral, you take something, so that's called a malveh ala mashkon. That's not going to be meshamet. You say the words that we explained before, al menat shelo teshmeteni ata, lo teshmeteni ata b'shvi. So that helps. And also, we said that the thing that we're dealing with is moser shtarotav lebedin. Yeah? So we have over here those halachot that you do the Prozbul because of that. Prozbul could be done with common questions. Can you do it at night? Yes. It's not like a mishpat that has to do in the day. Can it be with edim that have family relation to the malveh, to the loveh? Normally, it's considered edim psulim. Over here, it's kosher. It's fine. As long as the edim are not related one to the other, it's fine. Can you do it edim psulim, mechalel Shabbat? Of course not. That's not edim. It has to be edim ksherim. So that's definitely things that one needs to pay attention to. Let's say you don't have a shtar. It's right before Rosh Hashanah. You came to shul. They're going to start soon. Achot ketana. Well, I wanted to do Prozbul the whole week. I'm saying to myself, I'll do Prozbul tomorrow morning, and today in the afternoon, and from here to here, you come to Rosh Hashanah, and so then you don't have now not et and not niyar lichtov alav. What are you supposed to do? You turn to your friend and you tell him in your words that kol chov sheyesh li mosreni לבית דין ויוכל לגבותו אחר בכל עת שירצה. And that is the halacha that is brought down. תלמידי חכמים שדבו זה את זה, ומסר דבריו, words, לתלמידים, ואמר מוסר אני לכם שכל חוב שיש לי שגבנו כל זמן שירצה. אינו צריך לכתוב פרוזבול, מפני שהם יודעים שהשמטת כספים בזמן הזה שהם מדבריהם, since the whole thing of שמיטת כספים is דרבנן, as we explained, because the יובל is not נוהג, ובדברים בלבד היא נדחית. So it's in an easy fashion you could take care of that prozbul. If a person writes a prozbul, he wrote a kosher prozbul, and then he comes afterwards to collect his debt. 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah, he comes to the love. Okay, you owe me $5,000. He says, what do you mean? It's after Shemitah. I don't owe you any money. Shemitah meshametet. Tell him, no, I wrote prozbul. He says, really? You wrote prozbul? Okay, show me. You're right. Prozbul, show me. So now you go home and you start looking for the prozbul. But listen, people lose the ketubah right and left. Prozbul, Halachot kama v'chama. He can't find it. He can't find it. If he's going to find it, by the time he finds it.
Well, what happened if one is doing it b'amira?
Bring the witnesses. Bring the witnesses. That's why you need witnesses. You need, no. He has to say.
So over here, so the answer to the question is that if he comes back and he tells him, I did a prozbul, I can't find it, and I don't know who's the edim, I don't remember, I did it in front of 2 people in shul, I don't, it's a shul that has many, many people, I don't even know them. So then he's believed. Why is that? Because doing prozbul is such an easy thing, we don't have a reason to suspect that he didn't do a prozbul. And therefore, for the same thing, it's an easy thing to say it over. Over here it says Talmidei Chachamim because they understand. But if you're stuck, you could do it anyway. And therefore, because of that, you be believed just by saying that you said that Mosreni ani lachem בית דין שפלוני ופלוני, or עדים שבית דין פלוני ופלוני, חוב שהגבנו כל זמן שירצה, and with that it's done. When you write a prozbul, all you need to do is write in the prozbul, you write your name, and the witnesses sign it. That's it. That's the way it's done. According to Ashkenazim, as we explained before, they have a beit din yodiotot. They don't need a beit din chashuv, as we explained, that understanding the dinim of prozbul, and they understand and הם חום העיר עליהם, אנשי העיר עליהם, they don't need any of that. All you do is 3 people. 3 people, they also, the same לשון, מוסרני עליכם בית דין, they write on the bottom their names, they sign their names, and with that it's very practical, very easy, and it's done. That is the din.
Okay, it's not good. You have to do it. That's the run up there, right? That somebody came.
So therefore the Rama says, ויש אומרים שכל אדם נמי יוכל, first the שולחן ערוך wrote תלמידי חכמים שהלוו זה את זה, and the Rama adds, יש אומרים שכל אדם נמי יוכל לומר דבריו בעל פה לפני בית דין ומעני ואין צריך prozbul. So some say that, l'chatchila we write a prozbul. If you can't write a prozbul for some reason, or you forgot, as we mentioned before, that would be the way you'll do it. If a person...
To use witnesses or to actually tell a bedding to say 3. If he's saying to say a bed to 3, then he's saying to a bedding. Maybe that's why it has to be Talmidei Chachamim, at least.
Well, again, according to Moran, bedding is not going to help you. You need to have bedding chashuv. שהם חום רבים עליהם באותה העיר, ויודעים עניין שמיטה. So
maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. I'm saying possibly. Or is he just using
the reason he said תלמידי חכמים, he tells us, מפני שהם יודעים ששמיטת כספים בזמן הזה מדבריהם, ובדברים בלבד היא נדחית. When talking about beit din, they understand the mechanics. When you're talking about somebody who's not a תלמיד חכם, what is this, a game? What is this? It's not going to help.
You know that the law, they just have to testify what they saw. What they know. They just testify what you saw. The betting was decided, if it was good or not. We just never have to be the Maybe it means the betting.
Yeah, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch writes in Seif Kaf Aleph. יש אומרים אפילו לשניים. יש מי שכתב שעניין שטר פוסבול כך הוא, הולך המלווה אצל ג' עדים, ויש אומרים אפילו לשניים, ואומר הבו עלי סהדי וחזו דהנה מסרנה פוסבול כמה ג' דיינים, דין פלוני ופלוני ופלוני דיינים, שמקום פלוני, די לו הם יחתמו באותם עדים, ויחתמו בדיין אתפה מעלה, ואין צריך שם עדים. That is the לשון of the שולחן ערוך, that's the way.
How does that help? It says that they didn't see you being Moser or anything. I tell them, testify that I...
No, you don't need. No, that's called a Mesirah. That's called a Mesirah. And therefore it says, as I mentioned, in סעיף ל"ג, נאמן אדם לומר פרוזבול היה לי ועבד. As we mentioned. ולא, it says, שולחן ערוך אלא שפותחים לו, שם הפרוזבול היה לך ועבד, ואם אמר כן נאמן, which means, to continue the story we said before, that the לווה says, okay, I'm willing to pay, but show me a פרוזבול. He says, wow, now I'm going to show a פרוזבול. He's thinking to himself. Some people start thinking. They don't talk. פתח פיך לאילם, it says. So, usually, there are people that think a lot, think, You think, and you don't know, because, some people don't just open their mouth and talk. They think, and they think, and they think. So meanwhile, the love is getting away with it. So potchim lo, shem a pozbul. You're sitting right there. You say, didn't you have a pozbul? Maybe you made a pozbul and you lost it. You say, yeah, I'm trying to think where it is. Well, what did I do with it? Oh, so tell him you have a pozbul. Im lo patchu lo, הבית דין ויצא מבית דין וחזר ואמר פוסבול היה לי, אם הוא קודם פסק דין נאמן, even then, נאמן. That's it. Questions?
What's the Mesirah? Me telling in front of two people, חזו שמסרתי שטרותיי לבית דין, פלוני דיינים. They didn't see me be Moser anything.
No, that is the Mesirah. By the way, some say that you need to make a kinyan. What's the kinyan for? So I saw in the Sfarim that mainly the kinyan is for the karka. Because if the person, the loveh, doesn't have a karka, you have to be makneh for him a karka. You have to be makneh. How do you makneh? What do you do if a person is not going to do a pozbul? Let's say a person is not going to do a pozbul for any reason. He's not going to say, he's not going to do let's say a person lo alenu, lo alechem in a hospital. Some people are out already, their mind is not with them. Some people are not religious at all. You tell them, listen, make a pozbul because, people owe you money. Yes, leave me alone, what pozbul. I'm going to make sure he pays. So then, you could, what did you say? Zakin la'adam. Yeah. On very, very specific cases like that, you could do zakin la'adam shalom v'fanav and do a pozbul for him. What happens if a person, for example, Chacham Ovadia has a teshuvah? What happened if a person, somebody called me with that question actually a week ago. Somebody that last Shemitah didn't do a pozbul. He wasn't religious. He didn't do a pozbul. He didn't know about pozbul even. So now, after 7 years, meanwhile he collected the money and he became religious. All these years, a person could be 70 years old. He collected Shemitah for 10 years, whatever. I'm saying since he amad al da'ato, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, he collected a large amount of money. Does he need to pay back? He never made pozbul. He collected all this money from all these Jewish friends. He never made pozbul. So Chacham Ovadia has over here different tzirufim. That lechatchila and achinam, if you don't do pozbul, you're not supposed to collect. But if you collected already, there's tzirufim that the fact that first of all we're saying it's only the Rabbanan bazman hazeh, and we told you about the Rezah that says that you don't have Shemitah altogether, or you don't have Shmitat Ksafim altogether, and you have the Sevara that the Rema, they say in the Rema, that it's like a person said, we omed da'ato, it's like a person says, we evaluate that it's like he said, al menat shelo tashmeteni ata b'shvit These are the tzirufim as well, because after you held already, you took the money, you muhzak on the money, you don't have to give back. These are all scenarios that are very common. More questions, Bechavod? That's it, going once. Absolutely, I said already, because you have bank account, you have all kind of things. Huh? Yes, because there's a large amount of money that's in jeopardy. No. Okay, that's a different thing. But could be. But doing a Prozbul takes literally half a minute. And maybe you forgot you have this, that loan, that money here, this person owes you for a job you made. There's so many things that could come about that a person should do the Prozbul and do it the correct way.
Some rental apartments constitute karka?
It depends. Yes.
Some of the Prozbul last year for Chumash Agrav. That's that.
Right. So the Rosh, we explained, the Rosh says that the Prozbul should be done in the beginning of the Shemitah, in the last year of Shemitah, the beginning of the seventh year. That is done last year, before the Shemitah year. And this is how the Shulchan Aruch Arav says. So therefore many people are machmir to do that as well. But regardless, even according to them, you still need to do Prozbul. Why? Because even with this, it's not going to be helping you for the halacha, lemaaseh, that it's now, right? This was meshamet, everything up to then. But this is protecting you everything up to then. But from then on, for the next, up to this year, up to this Rosh Hashanah, it's not protecting you. And since the halacha is that you need to have Shemitah Ksafim, then one should do it. Let's do. You have such a thing? Here, let's make this halacha l'maaseh. You have a piece of paper? So this is over here.
That works.
This is over here. This is over here an example of the Prozbul that a Sfaradi should not make. Here it is. So Chazak u'Baruch, because it says here Shtar Prozbul. Me'utav tlata kechada avin anachnu achmutumim mata ve'ata kadmana Rabbi Agaon Ephraim HaKohen והמלווה ואמר לפנינו מוצאין לכם בית דין רב זכר, that's already one דיין מומחה, but the rest I don't know, שכל חוב שיש לי בין בשטר בין בעל פה שגבנו כל זמן שארצה ואנחנו בית דין הואיל ומסר לפנינו. So this is not going to help the Sfaradim. Since I see over here Sfaradim, it's important to know that it needs to be done correctly.
So we just change the bet and then make it into Aiden.
Yeah, but if you start crossing out,
No,
then
so what was the problem with this one? Aiden, the same story.
it's Shtar Prozbul to a bet din, and for bet din you need to have bet din mumche, chashuv.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
Chazak v'ruch.